You are listening to Overwatch League Network, the podcast with Deadeye on all the latest Overwatch League news and information. The show with Tactical Visor on all of these statistics and analysis. Here are your hosts, Booger and Tanura.
Oh, I was muted for that. Welcome to the Overwatch League Network with Anura and Booger, here live to bring you all the latest Overwatch League news, free agent updates, and maybe we'll even touch on the rumor mill a little bit today. We actually have had like a pretty busy week for Overwatch League announcements, but before we get into that, I just want to say what's up to Anura and let all the listeners know how you've been doing, what's been going on this past week.
This past week's been pretty good. I got a new boss at my job, so I'm excited to see how he's gonna work with the feng shui of the place, if you want to put it that way. But overall, it's been a pretty good week. Just chilling and working a lot. So and watching these signings. I mean, oh my God, we have a lot of news. I'm just excited to talk about that. How's your weekend or week?
Oh, it's not been bad. I didn't get a ton of hours this week at work, so I've been chilling. I've been playing Hearthstone, and I pushed into Plat again this season. It's literally the only game I'm actually okay at. So, been having a lot of fun playing that. We got duels coming around, and yeah, I've just been having some fun playing Hearthstone and chilling. Get a little bit of Overwatch in, but it's you know how it is. You got to break it up. You can't just play one game all the time. So I've been having.
Yeah, who would do that? I just played Harvest Moon for 6 hours straight. That was what I did today. I forgot about that.
Binge. That's one day. You would not want to play the same game for that many hours.
I've been playing it since I was a child. But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but you play 100%. Overwatch and stuff too.
Yeah, anyways, I play other games. Yeah, you're right.
So last week we started off the show announcing the Gladiators signing Shu. And we're going to start this week off a little bit similar because the Gladiators have signed another support, and that's main support from the San Francisco Shock, Moth. This is huge. If you pay attention to a lot of Overwatch League, Moth has been on the team that won the whole thing, the entire Grand Finals, the last 2 years. And now he's going to the Gladiators. So our resident Gladiators fan is probably pretty stoked. So Anura, let everybody know how stoked you are.
I want you to know how big this signing is. One of my friends who barely plays Overwatch told me, he's like, "Wow, I can't believe your team signed Moth." I was like, "How do you know this?" He's like, "Well, I knew you're a Gladiators fan, and I follow Shock because I like their team." And I was like, "You follow Shock on Twitter?" He's like, "Yeah." And I really liked Moth. I thought he was pretty good. He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "It's a huge signing." He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "How did you know?" This is how big this signing is. It went past the casual. He really has only watched a few games of Overwatch League, and he knew about this signing. It tells you how big this thing is. I mean, as an Overwatch League fan and as a Gladiators fan, I am overly excited. Moth and Space have a lot of history together, being on previous teams. And then same thing with Shu and Moth. They were both on, I think, the Toronto esports, Toe Sports, a lot of people call it, after their crazy Twitter ramblings a few years back. But overall, I'm excited for this. We are looking really good, and I don't know how else to explain it other than this is going to be a fun year to be a Gladiators fan.
Yeah, we started 2 episodes in a row off with big news for your favorite team, so maybe I'll get some next week. But
no, not allowed.
No, not allowed. You're a fan of a Texas team. Texas already got their talent. But yeah, no. So Moth Shu is an insane support duo. That's almost, if not better. Yeah, that's better. It's better than Shaz Big Goose, which
Yeah.
had been like a really good support line for Gladiators that has put them like near the top for a couple years in a row, and now they're better. So yeah, no, watch out for the Glads. They are looking to maybe be just like a hair better than the Dallas Fuel next year.
I'm hoping. It's one of those things where right now, yeah, it's for me. It was more of like I'm glad we picked up two amazing players to replace the people that we've had, which is Shaz and Big Goose. These
Yeah,
honestly larger than life figures in the Overwatch League for a while. Like everyone knew this is the support duo of the Gladiators, and to replace them with great players like Moth and Shu really, it kind of warms my heart in a way where it's like these guys will definitely do the job and keep our support line as solid as ever. Shu is madly underrated still to this day. If you don't watch Charge, you don't know how good Shu is. And literally this whole season, a lot of people really haven't been able to tune into the Asia games, so they really don't remember how good he was from season 2. His Baptiste is insane. His Ana is insane. His Zenyatta is insane. He's a great player. I just hope he can actually not only look as good as he was before, but perform better on the team like this. And then with Moth, oh my God, we now have a championship leader and a championship level shot caller on our team. So it's one of those things where there's so much leadership that's coming from him, not to mention all the things he's learned on Shock he can bring to this team. He's such a huge signing. I can't explain how excited I am to have this support duo, this tank line. I already love the DPS line from last year. So it's one of those things where I'm in love with this team. We are looking good. DPay no longer has to worry about GMing. He can fully head coach if that was your worries about the Gladiators this season. Hopefully that's not a problem or even a worry of yours anymore. I understand if you think he's still in the hot seat if they start doing bad. That's completely understandable. But from right now, it's looking like it's a perfect storm for the Gladiators, and I'm super excited to see where they go.
for sure, for sure. And so now that Moth is left the San Francisco Shock, that left some of us to speculate: is there going to be someone to replace him? Or are they going to, like, they have probably two of the top 5 flex supports in the world, period, on the Shock, which is Twilight and Violet. So it led me to question, like, are they going to sign another support, or are they going to, like, have one of them transition to main support? We know that there's a little bit of, like, overlap anyway, but no, the Shock went ahead and made a pretty quick pickup after letting Moth go, and they picked up FD God from Paris, who, like, he's amazing at Lucio, and the rest of his main supports seem to be really good. But, like, is he as good as Moth? Like, that's a tough one for me. Like, I don't really know if FD God is quite as good as Moth, but I also don't know if he has to be as good as him. So, Anura, what do you think?
I think I am going to love to see how they're going to develop FD God into a leader like Moth was. I think Moth really showed a lot of shot calling ability and honestly like overall leadership, calming the team down when they need to be, and just like all of that. I want to see that in FD God this next year. At the end of the day, Shock's still going to do amazing. Like, this is not a team that's going to falter. They have too many championship players to falter
Well,
to a higher extent, and I don't think FD God's going to stop them. I'm mostly worried about FD God's shot calling with the team, his leadership, and maybe his mechanics and some other things that aren't Lucio. He had a pretty good Baptiste. I don't remember his break. I don't remember how well his Mercy was. But overall, there's a lot of things that he might have gaps in. We'll have to find out later. But overall, I think this is a fantastic replacement for Moth. He's younger. He's got really good mechanics on certain heroes, and I think he's hungry. He's really, really hungry. That's a big thing.
mm-hmm.
So underneath the leadership of Krusty and all these veteran players, I think he can definitely transform to a monster, like an absolute main support monster. I'd say on the likes of Funny Astro or Moth. But we'll have to see it throughout the season for sure.
For sure. So now next signing we're going to talk about, which isn't that surprising, is XZ to the Fuel completing like the reformation of that Element Mystic team they put, like that squad from that they played with before, and supposedly this is going to be their last signing at least for a bit. Um, so XZ's rejoining Sparkle and Doha, and uh, yeah, like he's on there with Hanbin and Fearless, and then they got Jexay and Repel. So like Fuel are looking pretty scary. I mean, okay, so this is gonna sound kind of crazy coming from me, but is the biggest question mark on this team not Jexay and Repel? Like Jexay looked like a really strong point of the Outlaws, who had a pretty bad year, and Repel beat out Raucus for the spot, but he was going to Valorant anyway. So how much was he even playing Overwatch? And like, you know, they're coming off a not so successful season. We're seeing the players come from Paris. Like Paris had like they exceeded expectations. A lot of people forget like preseason. A lot of people were putting Paris like bottom 5 team, and then would because we were all like, oh, they don't get Sparkle till the very end. They're not going to be able to really keep up. But they were they exceeded all of our expectations. So Paris players, their stock's pretty high, but the Outlaw support duo, like I don't know. Do you think that's the weakest part of the Fuel right now?
I mean, I overall, I think it could be the weakest part. As in, I mean, you're not going to beat that tank line, and that DPS line's pretty amazing. So it's really hard to beat those two. But they are also, you have to remember, yeah, Repel is on the team. Repel had a decent season, not amazing, but you know who did have an amazing season is Fielder. Fielder looked
Oh,
insanely good on that
true.
flex support.
I
So I
forgot.
wouldn't be worrying about the flex support position as much. Still think Fielder could be championship caliber for sure.
Yeah, you're
The
right.
one question mark you do have is Jexay, but Jexay is a really good shot caller, and this is going to be the first time you're going to really see Jexay on a full Korean team where he can shotgun a shot call to his full potential. And so, I mean, this is not the worst. I still think that they are weaker than some teams, still with the pickups that they have. I still have some questions. Fearless is really, really, really good. I still think he's a top main tank, but this is a different team than the Shanghai. He doesn't have the same support as Shanghai. I don't think they're necessarily better than Shanghai. I think he's going to a lower tier team, barely, still barely. I'm not. Dallasville is now in this higher echelon where you have to grade every single little thing that they have, and so I think Hanbin's amazing, amazing. Is he a void? Who knows? Hanbin for me impressed me a lot. That was with, I mean, it was with the same team. I don't know, but Hanbin looked amazing. Let's see, the DPS line. What scares me a lot is Sparkle, but they have Doha to fill a lot of the stuff that
Mm-hmm.
Sparkle wouldn't be able to play. Sparkle looks amazing on certain heroes, but there are some certain heroes that he's just playing that were like, he should not be playing this. Why do you have him on these heroes? I think one of them was like Sombra, and there's a few other
Yeah.
ones, but
He,
overall, we're gonna go back to Xe. I am so glad Xe's on this team. I feel so bad for him. I thought he was gonna be left out on this amazing team, and he wouldn't be able to play with the same people again, and he'd be picked up by some random team that he probably didn't want to go to. I'm so glad he's on the Dallas Fuel with the teammates he had previously, because Paris Eternal was no longer an option. This is obvious what's happening with Paris is a full um, just breakdown, and it's sad to see all these players that I think they all really enjoyed being on a team together fall apart. But I'm glad Xe found a home this season. He's really good, and if he doesn't have any neck pains like he had last season, then I hope we can see a full season with Xe. I mean, Xe Sparkle just sounds amazing, and I feel like we got so little of it last year. So I'm excited to see Dallas Fuel as a whole. This is their full roster. They've announced this is it. They're going into the 2021 season with this roster. They are looking amazing. There's also so many good teams coming out. I can't wait till the end of the year we have to make these rankings and where we're going to place Dallas. It could be anywhere on the board. At the end of the day, they have a championship roster. You need to remember that. They could win the championship with this roster, no doubt. So, I mean, especially with Xe on there.
for sure. So now, speaking of championship rosters, I'm 37 is signed with the Boston Uprising. So I'm 37 was that dude that joined Toronto Defiant after being in contenders for like 2 weeks, after being in open division for like 2 weeks, like just went from ladder to Overwatch League like that, like snap of a fingers. And then things didn't go so well, and he went back down to contenders for a bit, and now he's worked his way back up. So this like could be good for him. You know, he went from not having a ton of like professional competitive experience to the highest level of Overwatch there is, and now he's got to like take a step back and slow down and ease into it. But he landed on Boston. So what do we even say about that? Seems to be I'm 37 is the Jerry replacement.
Yeah.
You're just like, yeah.
Yeah. So this one is an interesting one for me. I am 37 looked really solid on his last team. I think it was O2 Blast. I don't remember exactly where he was from before. He looks really solid. I'm still worried. You're on Boston. I think that they could be better this year. They could. What scares me is they already have one of the worst tank lines in the league, with fusions and fusions and is it Mikey?
Hey,
no, it's not Mikey. Who was it?
Punk's not bad, dude. And I don't think Fusions has to be bad.
Well, no, it's not that he's bad. It's just not that good. Fusions. Who's the other guy?
Punk.
You're breaking up every single time you say something. Punk. Yes, thank you. Punk looked solid, and I think they looked really good in the last meta they played. But overall, I still think they're weaker, and all the tank lines are getting better this year. You can't be looking about the same, especially if you're Boston, and picking up players that I am 37 could be really good. He could, but I don't know how much better he's going to be than Jerry. And it's just one of those things where right now I still don't believe in Boston. Mm-hmm. Now they have rough competition with Paris on being 20th. So overall, right now,
well, Paris has no one.
They could move up. They could move up and be better. Yeah, Paris has no one. We don't know who they're picking up right now. It could go really bad or really good. The problem is Paris, according to rumors, is literally only accepting players who are willing to play with the lowest minimum like salary.
I'll do it.
Which means we don't know who exactly they're going to pick up, but I mean, unless they somehow find a really like good talent for really cheap, which they could. I mean, honestly, from what it's looking like, well, I guess it's not going to be Benda soon or any of them, but there's some really good players that could go to Paris just because they didn't find a team this year.
Yeah, that is true.
And
people,
but for me, I have to see more out of IM37 in the squad to really rate them higher, and we're gonna have a long time before that.
Oh yeah.
So I think it's a solid pickup. I don't know if it's gonna be better than Jerry. I don't know if it's worse than Jerry. It's just different, and I hope it's better for Boston. I hope Boston fans, this is a sign of life or something for you.
It kind of seems like Boston.
I lost faith in this. I lost faith on this team when they were like, we're going to keep all these players that have literally gone 2 seasons 20th. At some point, you've got to really. I mean, Youngman, I think, was the only one that you should have kept. I'm sorry. I like Fusions. I like Punk. I don't think I like Color Hex. I just don't know if this is the route you need to go. Because if it goes bad, they've been down that bad before. Like, I don't know if you want to keep that mentality of the team players staying together like that, but who knows? Who knows? I mean, it's a long time. There's more signings to come. Maybe Boston finds some crazy good players for super cheap, and they look really good at the end of the at the end of the offseason. But right now, for me, it's scary.
There's completely untapped markets like Overwatch. People can be playing it anywhere, and we see almost like no South American players. We don't, you know what I'm saying? We see very few Middle Eastern players. There are like markets of Overwatch where these people, they have the internet, they can see Overwatch League, they can see the top level of Overwatch. So there's people that are getting that good that are just under the radar. I don't really think Boston or Paris is gonna pick him up, but like,
Yeah, that's where I'm at. It's not that they
but it's
can't. But
possible.
Valiant show that there's great players to be found. I mean, Valiant did show that.
True.
Boston has not done that since season 1 with Krusty.
They
Like,
found
what do
Strike.
you?
Oh, you're right. That was Krusty.
That's with Krusty. That's all Krusty. Let's see, who else did they find? Season 2, was there any really good players that left?
Blase, not that good.
Blase, yeah, I don't even know if Blase is going to find a team next year.
Oh,
Sadly,
I think. Well, you
I think he
could say
could easily, but I don't know. Like, maybe he has a bad tryout with like 3 of the teams that would pick him up, and he doesn't get in the league. Maybe Houston signs him back. Who knows? But
yeah.
it's scary stuff. But this is like where we're at. Where Boston really hasn't had a lot of good players come out of it since season 1. Maybe Laurie's the answer, but it's a scary. Like, I'm not going to trust them until I see, And for me, I think IM37 is an interesting talent for sure. I think Toronto Defiant, he's probably gotten a lot better since the Toronto Defiant days, where he just started doing competitively, like playing competitively.
Mm-hmm.
He's had a whole season to learn through the contender system.
They could maybe not just be being better, like, mechanically, but being a better teammate. Like, if you're going from so little experience, like being part of an organization or a team, like, that's a huge thing to learn. Like, ladder Overwatch is completely different than tournaments. Like, it really is. Even low level tournaments are completely different than a low level ladder game. Like, it just is. And
right.
That's to me is a huge gap to jump. And he is so talented, he was able to like kind of do it. But yeah, I think I'm 37 can be better than what he was with the Defiant, but that bar's not. Let's be real, the bar's not that high, dude. It's really not.
I mean, it's just the problem is Boston. Right now,
You're right.
The problem is Boston is every
Boston.
player. Yeah, every player I see signed there, I just get sad because I don't know how well they're gonna do. I'm surprised they didn't try to sell off the players this year. That's actually a change. But overall, they're trying to change their mentality. They're trying to change the way that they sign players, maybe, and probably with more influence with Laurie. They actually have a pretty good coach this year. Like, there's a lot of positives to come out of it. The problem is that right now, based on every signing I've seen, the Overwatch League is upgrading a lot. These teams coming out are insane, absolutely insane rosters. There's literally monster rosters coming out left and right. Boston might not be able to compete even if they do upgrade.
Oh yeah,
that's just based off the current signings alone. So that's where they're at. That's just where they're at.
More signings from the other side of the globe. The Guangzhou Charge have signed Kariv, Mondu, and Michaeli. Kariv, he's been around the Overwatch League for a bit. He had a really successful season 2 with the Valiant, and a little bit lackluster this past season. Mondu was on New York XL, but he was essentially like Jonak's understudy. You almost feel like NYXL just picked him up in case Jonak got sick or something. But we didn't really see him play much. But he's been with the NYXL, which is an elite.
Mondu's the main support, but yes.
Oh yeah, so then he would have been under Onimo. My bad. Either way, and then they also have signed Michaeli, who is a former Billy Gaming player, which is the Sparks Contenders team. Seems to have a pretty high reputation within that contender scene. So looks like Charge is looking to revamp after 2 seasons of being almost really good, and they think that this is who's going to do it. And I think we got more news from the Charge coming, but this seems like a pretty good start.
Yeah, I'm excited for Mondu. I'm really excited to see Michaeli. Previously known as Kaylee. Just changed my name to Michaeli. I don't know. I think Kaylee was better. But maybe it's some thing with him. Who knows? But these are really interesting talents. Mandu didn't really get a huge shot on NYXL. I don't know why. I always feel like it's such a weird way NYXL moves their players around. Like, Libero is such a good player, but they always try to sign someone over him. Like, just weird stuff like that. Where I don't understand why Nene's not playing a lot. Certain things like that, you're like, I just don't get it. And Mondu was one of those things where he was really highly regarded, and they're really excited to see Mondu on this NYXL squad. A lot of people were, but it's just never worked out, I guess. And maybe Onimo just kept winning the spot. Maybe he just worked well with the team. Despite all that, I think Mondu's a great talent. I'm really excited to see him in the starting spot. Mike Haley's really good. Kareev is still good. I will say Kareev is still really good. I do have some problems with this. You had Shu. Shu is now a free agent. I don't know if Shu just wanted to go to Gladiators instead of Charge, which is a completely understandable thing, and they couldn't get him, so they picked up Kareev. But this is, for me, clearly a
slight
downgrade, and at best, a downgrade, but at best a side grade. I don't think. And some people are really big Kareev fans, and if you're hearing this and you're mad at me for this, look at Shu's tape. It's nothing to go against Kareev. Actually, I talked a lot of trash about Kareev in the past, so I'll just go straight in. I don't think he has played some weird times where he kind of throws. He kind of throws sometimes, really, and it makes me mad. He makes me mad. He's good. He's got good mechanics, and maybe this team can fix him. Maybe they can fix him.
You think he tilts a little?
I don't know if he tilts.
But
maybe.
I mean, I agree with.
I do think he's kind of an emotional player, but I want to see Kareev at as his top performance. I do hate how overhyped he is at a lot of times, where it's like Kareev is the best player on the Valiant, or Kareev agilities while they're so good. When literally there's so many times I'm like, yeah, Kareev has had some terrible, terrible games where he's played really, really bad, and he's had some amazing games where he's carried. He gets talked about so much because they like him as a personality, and which is good for the Chargers. They probably want a personality, but he's just not to the level of the predecessor of Shu. For me, I don't know if these are upgrades for the Charge. I don't know if Mondu's better than who was the Neptuno and
Chara.
The other one Chara as well. I don't know if he's an upgrade to those two.
Yeah,
Mike Haley's.
Much about Mondu.
Yeah, he could be better. I had some problems with Chara as well. I thought Neptune was going to get a lot of playing time, but then, visa issues happened and Corona, so it was hard to see Neptune on the team. But Mike Haley is an interesting talent. I'm excited to see what he can do. The problem is that he's coming into a team that just lost Nero and Happy, which we'll talk about in a second, but they did. And so right now, I don't know if these players are going to live up to the previous Charge players. And that's the scary part for me, where it's like...
Yeah, I agree with you.
When all the other teams are upgrading, you can't keep side grading or downgrading unless you have a plan for it. Maybe you're not paying these players as much as previous. I don't know. I don't know anything that's going on. Maybe... I know Arachne is their new head coach. Maybe he has a plan for these players and he sees a lot of potential in them. I personally am very confused by these signings, and I'm excited to see what Mandu and Michaeli can do. I want to see Kareev at the top, is like the tippy top. What he can do on with the most consistent play we've ever seen from him. But for me, these are not exciting talents, not like super exciting talents. They're just. It's interesting, but in a different way than I want it to be, with all these super rosters coming in.
See, here's what I think happened here is that Charge lost the bidding war for Shu, and they picked up pretty much the next best available for them. I definitely agree with you that Kareev is not better than Shu, but I definitely think he's still pretty good. He's could be on a high-level team. So... this seems to me it's like they couldn't get Shu. That's the next best available. But here we go. We're going to go ahead and talk about another one of the Asian teams, and that is QOQ has left the Spark, and it left him looking for a new team. And in lieu of QOQ, they have signed... Man, how are we gonna say it? Is it Liege?
I would say Liege, Lige, Lige, but I'm gonna call it Liege. It sounds easier for me. Until we're corrected, we'll just call him Liege.
Yeah, so that's gonna be their new off tank, and he's also from Billy Gaming, or was he from Team CC?
I can look it up real
Oh,
quick.
he was on Team CC.
Okay, he's on Team CC.
Yes, that's what team he was on.
I think the biggest thing we need to talk about is how he's also a Chinese
Yeah, because
person.
CC was a Chinese contenders team, and they were like the Chinese contenders team that's like the team. They haven't lost one of the main tournaments in a minute now. I might be getting my lore a little mixed up, but
They're the academy team of the Shanghai Dragons.
yeah,
Just so people know.
they're like
Yeah.
they're like the top of the top of Chinese contenders for like multiple seasons. So
They get first or second a lot. Yeah.
yeah, so we'll be looking for that to be a pretty big pickup, but personally, I don't know much about them, so I'm just gonna withhold comment until we get to see some play.
Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about. I think QOQ is a great player, and it's really interesting to see how much they are willing to let go of a good player like QOQ for this player. I haven't seen a lot of Chinese contenders, so I'm not gonna lie there. But he must be pretty good if he's getting first or second place with this team, as well as beating out a guy like QOQ. I think that's a huge statement. I think another statement is the amount of players that are going to Spark that we haven't really seen yet. They haven't really signed them yet, but we already have, I think, Mika, Koldis, Gushue. They just signed Shai and now Liege, all Chinese players. They now technically have more Chinese players than Korean players. This is a huge change. It shows that they are really interested into the Chinese foundation, where a lot of people are like, well, if you want a Chinese player, if you want to be signed as a Chinese player, you go to Hunters or Charge. I don't think a lot of people are looking at Spark as this kind of team. They literally have IDK, Godsby, and Architect. Those are the only Korean players they have right now. So this is really interesting because no one's talking about this. And it's one of those things where this is really good for the Chinese Overwatch scene. Amazing. You're not looking at as Spark as a new way of going, because before they had, I think it was Crystal and the only other person was Gushue, who were Chinese, and so now it's a complete changeover, and I'm excited to see. I always say this. I'm really excited to see this now mainly Chinese roster compete at the highest level, because I think Spark has always shown that they can be close to the highest. They've always competed. They always lost the highest people, but they've always competed at the higher level. They always beat people who they're supposed to beat. They normally lost the people they were supposed to lose to, with a few exceptions. But they really developed these players, and they're now using them as part of the roster. And I'm super excited to see another Chinese team. Of course, they are from China, Hangzhou. But overall, this is really interesting and really cool to see the change that they've made over the years. It really shows development.
For sure. Like, yeah, so with that being said, while we're talking about Chinese teams, we have got the Shanghai Dragons have signed Fate, formerly of the Florida Mayhem. And, Fearless had gone to Dallas, and they had left that main tank slot open, and they decided that they think Fate could fill it. And honestly, I don't know about this, dude. Is Fate washed?
Fate's not washed. He's really solid. He's a solid main tank. And
look, he was getting Karayan was getting playtime over him. Like,
I mean, sometimes I think Fate won most of the time.
Fate pretty much. I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought he ended up pretty much playing when the Reinhardt player. So he had more time earlier in the season, kind of like LH Cloudy, and then later towards the end he had less playtime.
No, Fate played a lot. Fate played a lot. He was their main tank, and didn't get a lot of that. I thought Karayan was pretty good, but this is still a more interesting signing because he's back with Coach Moon, who was the previous Valiant coach when he was Valiant. It seems like Coach Moon really wanted Fate to be the main tank of this roster. Couldn't get him. Signed amazing tank Fearless, but now that Fearless wanted to leave for Dallas, he now got another opportunity. He had another opportunity to get Fate, and he did. He got it. This is although people are gonna say this is a downgrade from Fearless, this is what the team wanted. So I mean, they're gonna live or die with it. You know, it's like Fate is now their main tank. This is it. I don't think he's the top, like the best main tank. I do think he's really solid on every position. I don't think there's one where I'm like, man, he's kind of bad at this hero. I don't think I've ever said that about Fate. I just think he's not as good as other ones. But with the support line that
True.
what is it, Shanghai showed, I mean, who knows? Like, he probably can still pop off and look way better than he did last year. It's just based off the DPS and supports around him and Void. So, although it's not like the best signing, I still think it's really solid signing. No one's going to be able to replace Fearless. So, I mean, pick someone that you know is tried and true and will get you through the season, or will show a new level underneath the coach that apparently the coach really likes him, so he knows a little bit about Fate.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am iffy about it, but overall, I think it's going to be an all right signing.
Yeah, that definitely is a good point that he's played with Coach Moon before, so that makes me a little more confident. But I'm curious if they're gonna maybe have another main tank. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like how Florida did with him before.
Well, Shanghai still has stand one.
Oh, true. You're right.
Yeah, so
But-
they still have him.
so now-
I think they're still trying to develop him too. This is a great veteran, not really rookie anymore, but younger main tank duo.
Gotcha. Yeah, and see, we got the next on our list of signings is Pelican to the Atlanta Reign. And Nura, you mentioned you thought that this was like a weird announcement. Do you think it's weird because of like another DPS to Reign, or did you just think the little video they made was weird?
The video was a whack, dude.
You think it's whack?
Yeah. Did you watch it?
I mean, yeah, and I'm replaying it right now just to like make sure that I'm not remembering it wrong. It just seems like a stylized thing of frag clips, right?
Well, it's a terrible style. It's bad.
Oh, okay.
Look, it just why all of it's just like it feels cluttered, and then they like split the DPS when he's playing DPS into like two screens, and it's weird. I don't like it at all. But
I think
it's their design choice. I'm not gonna hate on it too much, but I just wanted to announce that you should at least see the video and put a opinion to yourself. I don't think it was cool. I thought it was just weird.
I think it's pretty cool.
So there's a lot of cuts, and and then they get to a Sombra clip, and I think it's absolutely the worst Sombra clip. I don't know what's going on.
The Sombra clip's kind of weird because they like have it mirrored, and it's like you can't really see the gun.
Yeah, like, it's a weird one. And then they're like, let's put the damage thing, the death counters on the left side, and then let's cut to random. I don't know.
And then it's also he's got some clips on the Wrecking Ball and some tanks. He's got a pretty cool Torbjorn clip, but like, I don't know. I didn't think it was that weird. It's definitely like just a stylized frag clip. Like they had the graphic designer do a lot of work on it, but like, I get what you're saying. You didn't really like it that much, but it definitely fits like that Atlanta Reign. They always have those like I don't know how to describe it. It's like a cool hip like street style, similar to like New York XL. Like they have that kind of style, and they tried to go that way with the video. I don't think it's that weird. It's pretty on par for what Atlanta would do.
I think it's a little too stylized, we'll say. But we're not gonna go off on much. I do want to talk about Pelican. If you haven't seen Pelican play, he's in a fantastic DPS. My problem is Atlanta signs fantastic DPS and then they disappear.
Yep.
This has happened a lot, and I don't want this to happen to Pelican. He has a bird name. I like bird names. I think they're cool. Sorry, I don't know why I had to bring that up, but
I mean, they're not real.
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta Reign is a bird, so I mean that's something, right? And they already have hawk, so you know they can't have bird ring. I think I've already tweeted this out. They're not allowed to have bird ring, but it's cool that they have so many bird people on one team.
Birds, but animals too, because they have a dog man.
Not anymore, but they do have gator.
Right, and a gate. Oh, they really are just trying to sign people with animal names.
It's a zoo over there, dude. It's an absolute zoo.
Somebody said that in the Discord the other day. They called it the Atlanta Zoo. I can't remember who it was, but But yeah, no, Atlanta. They, you really hit the nail on the head. Like they signed some awesome DPS players. We see some really high highs from them, and then they start playing somebody different and just fade away. Like they really are fade away DPS for Atlanta over the past 2 years. So I don't know, is Pelican gonna be that like hitter that they come in and just keep swinging? Uh, I don't know, dude. Like I don't really know a
I'm
whole
worried
lot
about
about
Atlanta as
them.
a whole.
Me too, because look, they've been like they were like this good, and then they were like that good, and I'm worried they're gonna go do, and then poof, and really drop down.
I can't wait for the audio listeners to hear that.
Oh, I
Oh,
just realized what I was doing. Yeah,
but I think they can get the reference. They honestly, I hope they can turn it around. I don't know what happened. Sure, maybe they're more of a stage team. I think with a guy like Dogman, you have to be. But I will say this: Pelican is an amazing DPS, and you just gotta watch him play. Oh my god, I love watching Pelican play. I think the only team they really lose to all the time is Runaway. They lose constantly to Runaway, but Pelican is one of those people who are he's really highly regarded in the Korean scene. He just turned 18, so that's the only reason why he hasn't been in the league. I know my boy Mir, he really likes Pelican. They duo sometimes, so that tells you that at least if Mir knows about him, I've heard some things because I watch the stream a lot. But overall, I think this is a great signing for any team, and I hope Atlanta Rain doesn't ruin it. I don't know what Atlanta needs. I thought maybe they need a new tank line. I think definitely they needed some support changes, and I think Iris is a good look for them. And I think that maybe Pelican can be what they wanted out of Earthshare, but somehow couldn't find. Who knows? But he's a good signing. Atlanta, you at least know how to make some good signings. I hope you don't ruin this one. Please look good next year. That's all I really have to say.
and that brings us to our last signings announcement of the week. We have the Philadelphia Fusion confirming that Carpe, Alarm, and Funny Astro will be returning for next year. Is this surprising? Carpe, no. Alarm, no. No. Like, this is. Okay, I feel like last season they were just waiting to get Alarm, Funny Astro as their support duo. Now they got them. Carpe, they might as well just call it the Fusion Carpe and Company. Philly Carpe and Company, because he's just who the Fusion are. So
Oh, yeah, they signed a huge deal with him. They can't really get rid of him yet.
yeah, they like he's getting paid, but like yeah, as far as like team wise, this is not even a little bit surprising to me. Anura, were you surprised at all?
Well, first of all, you needed to keep the support line. If you want to be competitive, you keep one of the best support lines in the league, which they did with Funny Astro. Carpe is a given because they have such a long contract. I think you guys have talked. I've talked about how much I think Carpe is still a good player. I still think that he needs to change his play style a bit to really go to that next level because he looks pretty selfish in some areas. But I think this shows more of who they haven't confirmed yet, which we can talk about a little bit more. I think that they did sign Mono. Mono's their new main tank. And we'll talk about the departures later. But another player we need to talk about is Hisu. Amazing player. Still hasn't been confirmed to be dropped, I'm pretty sure. And we don't really know where he's going. But Poco is a big one, who's been with the team since season 1, but we have not heard anything from.
No info on him.
There's no info. Did he get traded? Is he going somewhere else? Is he staying with the team? Are they working through negotiations with him? We don't know.
We'll know
but
next week.
is Poco's really good. Poco's amazing. I think he's a fantastic player. But do they need Poco or do they need another guy like Fury? Which we'll talk about Fury in a second. But it's a weird one where I think it would be bad if they lose a guy like Poco. And maybe they lose a guy like Poco because they had a guy like Fury, and maybe Poco will resign now that he might not have some competition in the role. I don't know. Fusion right now looks like they could either really come back with some huge signings or really just fall flat. And I don't want to see them fall flat. I really don't. I think Fusion really likes. It's good to have so many competitors in the league. It is sad to see Fusion really didn't be able to, like, where they weren't able to pull it out with the team they had. But it looks like their new head coach 9K has a vision that was a lot different than last year's vision with KDG. I'm excited to see what happens, but right now these are really good signings, confirmations for the first of all for the fans to know that, like, hey, we're not completely falling apart. We still have some really good players under our belt, but also shows that they're not completely done with these players. And overall, at least you have one of the best support lines. You have Mono, which if you don't think Mono's good, then I don't know what you've been watching in the last 3 years. He's at least mid tier if you really want to like go super low about it. But he easily, if he goes back to his peak, can be a top 3 main tank. But I mean, Fusion's gonna be interesting. I think we can go on to that was the good news, and we can talk about kind of the bad news if you
I don't
really
know
want
about
to.
bad news, but that we're gonna go ahead and go into our free agent tracker section and talk about some of these players that are no longer on their old teams and might be looking for a new team. And since we were just talking about the Philly Fusion, we're gonna start off with 3 players formerly on the Philly Fusion that are, as far as we know now, free agents. They have no team. And that's Fury, their off tank formerly of London Spitfire, Sato, their main tank, and Ivy, who was one of their, let's call him a supplementary DPS to their main core. Yeah, so all these players, like, they're all legit, and I expect all 3 of them to be in the league in 2021. So, Nura, I guess we can just theory craft some teams for these players to go with. I know the buzz around the internet is Fury to New York because that was a rumor last year and it didn't come through. That was one of the leakers were wrong about Fury to New York and it didn't happen. So now we got Fury as a free agent. A lot of people assume that because that was a rumor, that meant that New York was expressing interest and just didn't get him, and they might now. I don't know. I think it's pretty up in the air. I think any of these 3 players could land on pretty much any team.
I think that it's weird that Philly couldn't re-sign Fury. I think that's really interesting.
Do you think they couldn't or didn't want to?
I don't know why you wouldn't want to re-sign Fury.
I mean,
I
like
don't.
you said
I
about
don't know
how
why.
good Poco is, and why would they Fury is.
We don't know what's happening with Poco right now.
Yeah.
That's why I don't want to
Oh, you're right.
put that up. So my main thing is, Fury was a free agent, so he obviously is looking at things as a free agent. You need to start looking at other options while you can. I don't think it's smart to just go back to your old team with the same salary when you could probably get a better salary somewhere else, or at least have more competitive salaries, and you can go back to your team saying, listen, these guys are asking for this. I'm willing to do what, like, it's good for negotiations, but they have been officially dropped from Philly. They are no longer Fury, Sato, and Ivy will not go back to Philly. I think Fury's a huge hit. Fury was one of the biggest signings last year for Fusion. Although confusing because they did have Poco, it was one of those off-season signings that everyone's like, wow, they're not playing around. Sato is who they made a big statement about last year, saying this is our main tank, and now he's dropped. I know this is a different vision for the team, but it is really interesting to see how it turned around, even after a top 4 finish. Ivy, I was super surprised about. I don't know why they dropped Ivy. I think Ivy's was a really good addition to the team. He showed a lot of promise. And so for me, this is a weird thing for Philly where we have to really see what happens at the end of the season to see what happens with Philly. But now we can talk about where I think they might be going. I think NYXL is a good option, like you said. But we don't know what's happening with NYXL. Sato as well. I think Sato, a lot of people might say that. I think Sato could be. There's Toronto we don't know anything about. There's NYXL. There's Florida.
Had confirmed Beast.
They have, but that doesn't mean they don't have two main tanks. They have
Right.
KDG on the roster. This guy's literally made a 12-man roster both years. So I think Toronto's going to be signing a lot of players, and we'll see a lot of them soon. But Sato might be one of them. Also, you have to remember KDG is the head coach of the Toronto Defiant, so he knows, and he was the previous coach of Philly, so he knows these players really well. He probably can give them good contracts. I don't think Toronto skims out on money like some other teams might. And I'm not saying it's bad. It's just different contract negotiate, whatever, different money for different teams. But I'm saying Toronto, I think, paid a lot for some of the players last year. Would probably be willing to do it again. And I think they have really good connections with all Fury, Sato, and Ivy. I wouldn't be surprised for any of those players going to Toronto Defiant. I think Florida Mayhem's an interesting one where I don't know if they still have Gargoyle. I'm assuming they do. If not, they can pick up Sato or Fury and really help the team out now that Fate's off of Florida. Another one, maybe Fury could go to Washington Justice. That's another team that we haven't talked about. Janu is apparently still a free agent. He's still in negotiations, but it's another option. Would be massive. I mean, this literally, who knows? There's a lot of options. I mean,
Fury to Outlaws.
I'm trying to think of another one. Houston Outlaws, maybe Sato.
Oh,
I mean, honestly, maybe Sato. You don't want Sato?
Not really.
I take Sato. I think Sato's pretty decent. Who do you want in Houston Outlaws?
Because of like the team he.
Because Funny Astro and
I don't know
Alarm
if
probably
he would be that good with whatever supports Houston's bringing in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but overall, I still think these are three great players. Land where they want have a lot of options. I think Ivy's probably the most interesting. I don't know where he's going to go. I still think he's going to find a team. I still think he's a really good DPS player. A little underlooked last year. I think Hiso's another free agent from that team that both of these DPS players I thought were the future of Fusion, but apparently they're not. And so it's an interesting one. But I think they'll all find a team. We just don't know where yet.
Yeah, and then, that'll bring us on to another player looking for a team, and that is Dia, who's coming off of a very high-level contender season and has been on some teams like the Shanghai Dragons in the past. And, I definitely would expect him to, since he wants to be in the league, I think he could have a spot. And one of the things that I thought was kind of funny is his looking for team tweet. He has the normal, an email, a Discord, and it says, can English and Korean shot call, DMs open, typical looking for team thing. But then he included a Liquipedia link to his Liquipedia page. So he's like, yeah, this is all the teams I've been on. Overwatch League, contenders, dating back to 2017. He's been on teams that were, winning, when you click on that Liquipedia thing, you just see first, third, first, second, first, third.
Yeah, we shouldn't talk about the original 2018.
Yeah, we're not talking about them right now because it's already been proven that players from that 2018 team can move on to elite level teams, aka Fearless.
Yeah, I'm just saying, 100%. No, I agree with you. Saying, well, he did have some loses.
Yeah, okay.
40 of them, but
he's coming.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
He's on a hot streak currently, is what I'm saying.
He looked like the best player on that 0-40 team, which had Fearless. He did. He looked really good, and that's why they kept him. Problem was they went full Korean. I don't think they could really work with him as well as they had amazing DPS. But like you were saying, he's been killing it in contenders. I've seen the highlights.
Yep.
I've seen what he's been doing. He's been looking amazing on Team CC. But yet he can't find the team because I think it's because he's Chinese and it's really hard to find a team. That's why I was so surprised to see.
But did you notice what it says though? It says can shot call in English and Korean.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it says can English and Korean shot caller. So.
Well, I mean, he at least got close to it, right? And I think that's enough for me.
You really need monkey, brig. Yeah.
Right. And I think that although he hasn't found, I think a lot of people options charge and hunters, and it seems like neither of them are interested. There's talks he had it on his I think it's called Weeaboo. It's like the Chinese version of Twitter, but he had it on there where he was talking about I don't think I'm going to make it this year. It's sad to say, but after that, there's a lot of overwhelming support by a lot of casters and players being like, this guy deserves it. He really deserves a starting spot somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Where I would love to see him on some mixed roster team somewhere. I wouldn't even care if it's NA. I don't even care if it's Boston. Somewhere, I really wish to just give him a shot to show how good of a
What do you mean
player
they
he
have the
is.
Gladiators?
The dude's been grinding. Yeah, maybe. I mean, honestly, I'd be fine with having Dio. We already have so many players to
Literally
where
so.
I want him on a starting position. I don't think he's going to get that on Gladiators.
Oh, okay. I could see that. Speaking of
I
starting,
wouldn't. Wait, I just want to say one thing. I would love to see him on Boston. I'd love to see
oh
him on a team
no,
like Toronto. No,
not
as in yes,
Boston.
because yeah, I want to see him starting. I
I
don't care
like
where he's going
him.
to go. I like him too. That's why I want him on in the league. I wouldn't mind seeing him on. I know Paris is going full. Looks like they're going full European, but I still think that they could give Dia a shot. Maybe this is a player that I really just want to see him on a team, and I really want to see him in the league and playing because it's sad to see if he might just be known as the guy who was on that 0-40 Shanghai
I don't
squad
think it's the end
and
of his
really
story.
didn't really couldn't make it back in the Overwatch League. Even though he's been in it the past 3 years, technically he's been benched the whole time and a two-way player. But yeah,
Okay,
that's really what I
and
wanted to say about him.
so we also have KSF is a free agent who has announced he's still in talks with Valiant, so his contract would have been up. And it seems like if he's still in talks with them, then he wants to play for the Valiant if they just get the numbers right. So, but technically, he's KSF's a free agent. Personally, I think we're gonna see him going back to Valiant because the way he played for the Valiant, they're gonna want to keep him, and it's just a matter of getting the numbers right. But then like you also got to think probably all the Overwatch League teams do not have the money that they were expecting to have right now. So, like, is there really going to be other teams that are like, we have tons of cash to throw around? So, I don't know. I think he might end up playing for Valiant another year with maybe the same salary or less. That's unfortunate, but everybody in the world right now is having trouble with money. So, uh, yeah, what do you think? You think
Yeah,
KSF stays with
I think
Valiant?
I think KSF always has a spot on this Valiant roster. I don't think he's going to be out of, but I still think that he should really trial with some teams. I think there's a lot of teams that would love to have a guy like KSF on their team.
Yeah, Outlaws.
Outlaws. We'll call Toronto Defiant. They're just a whole. Yeah, I mean, Outlaws, Toronto are two of the big
See, I could have
ones.
seen him with Atlanta, but now that they signed Pelican, they're starting to have
Well, you
quite a
can
few
still probably find
DPS.
them in Atlanta. Atlanta doesn't care. They'll sign 10 DPS players if they want to.
You are right.
Uh,
Well, they can't have 10.
what-
The most they can have is like 8, technically.
they'll do it. They'll do it. I don't care. They'll do it. They'll find a way. But overall, I still think there's a lot of options for him. Which is it? Not Toronto, but Vancouver is a team that we don't talk about a
Oh,
lot.
yeah, we have not talked
They're
about
not.
Vancouver.
They made a really cheap roster because they had to find one in a week. I still think they have some money to throw around, and they could definitely find some great players like KSF. There's a rumor going around about a Joe going there, maybe. Who knows? But Vancouver's an interesting one that could really come out of nowhere and really sign some
Yeah, we
crazy
know
players.
nothing about Vancouver, do we?
We know that they have Shredlock. Who else did they keep? They kept
Dalton
Dalton, Shredlock.
and
Who is their flex support?
either way, they didn't keep
Yeah,
everybody.
they've kept some players.
But yeah, so
But yeah,
Kane, you think
overall,
KSF could go to the Titans and keep the green on? That's
maybe,
interesting.
maybe. I mean, there's a lot of. Well, I mean, he went blue. He didn't have last year, but
What do you
yeah,
mean?
I think he has. The thing is that he has
Oh,
options. He has options, and so he's one of those guys where he's although he doesn't like super impress me, there's some times where he really is a solid player. Most of the time, can pop off in certain moments. You don't bet against KSF.
Yeah,
He's a
he's not gonna
solid.
lose a game for you.
He's super solid, and he definitely deserves at least maybe a higher contract than what Valiant could give him. Who knows? But I think he can definitely find a team, and he's probably in easy talks about Valiant. Really just want to see their players do well. I think that's one of the things that you will see with Valiant. Over they won't screw anyone over, especially with Packing 10 as their head coach. I think Packing 10 really wants to see these players make money like he does, and be a really good player in general. So overall, I still think this is a really interesting free agent, and I'm excited to see where he goes.
And coming up to the end of our free agent discussions, we have the Charge, and they no longer have Nero or Happy on their team. And can I just clump this in with the biggest rumor of the week is that the Outlaws are planning to sign Happy and Nero, as well as Piggy on off tank, but the Happy and Nero would be pretty huge, but also leaves you a big question about Dante, right?
Why would you question about Dante? They literally, that's like a trifecta. Have a pure pure projectile, and you have a flex.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
That's literally what you want. So yeah, you could talk about it, but I don't think there's much to talk about. I think it's more interesting to see that they're signing Nero when they have hydration, which means hydration might be your main tank.
He really might though. But you know what? I think that he's been enjoying playing tank.
Listen, hydration can play whatever he wants, and it'll be okay. And I'm happy with it because I love hydration.
Enjoy it to like. If you're not having fun, you're not gonna do as good as if you are. Like that's just how it.
You could literally just have hydration as being like, I hope no one gets. They do. We have hydration. We're gonna be fine. My main thing is these are huge drops for a Charge. Like what are they?
I think they're just restructuring that they thought that they were good enough to win it all these past 2 years and they haven't.
Maybe.
And so they're like, well, this didn't work. We're starting pretty much from scratch, which they're not all the way starting from scratch, but they're pretty close, dude. And the players they keep might not stay starting. So, yeah, Nero, Happy. While we do have the rumor of them going to the Outlaws, I don't really know. Like,
right, and we don't know the inner turmoil with the Charge. Maybe they just have.
But okay, here's
the
other thing too. Is I thought, in regards to the Outlaws rumor, I thought the Outlaws seemed like they wanted to go more Western and stay away from Korean players, but then they're going to sign Happy? Isn't he Korean? Am I wrong?
Well, no, and so is Piggy. The thing is you can still be a Western. I think that's completely fine, and I think that's honestly the best thing. Like a really strong showing with both Korean and Western players, and especially with the coaches that they have right now.
Okay,
it should be. Right. They've all played with mixed and honestly full Korean rosters. So although you pick the best players you think you can get, I think these are amazing players for the Outlaws. I do want to say that although I did say like what are the Charge doing, it's honestly not under their control. These are 2 free agents. They really could have gone anywhere after this season, and I don't know if they lost the free agent battle or not. I don't know if they said, "Hey, first of all, I don't think Charge wanted another North American player after all the visa issues. I think we talked about that earlier."
I can see that.
But the thing is losing Happy, which is one of the best hit scans, and Shu, one of the best flex supports, are huge blows, and it really makes you worry about the Charge. But the fact that Outlaws are going this aggressive to sign amazing players like Happy and Nero, and I've heard great things about Piggy as well, really shows that they're going to be improved. They are. Well, and with what we've been hearing so far.
Anura, the bar's not that high.
The bar isn't high, yes. But these are crazy good pickups that I would not expect Houston Outlaws to sign.
I agree with that.
I'm going to be honest. You're not going to be missing out a lot from last year. I know people loved the team previously, but it looks like they are really going for a competitive roster, a super competitive roster. And I'm really excited to see who they're going to try to sign next, if these rumors are true.
Because you want to know the other outlaw rumor
If
that
these
I've
rumors are
heard
true.
that I think is just people making up to meme, but it starts to kind of seem like a rumor now, but it might just be a meme, is Super to the Outlaws. And
That's just a funny meme that I wouldn't mind having, but
yeah, dude, memes come true sometimes. And
they're like it's inevitable. I've also seen Super to Gladiators.
that would be
It's inevitable.
absolutely insane. Super to an
It's-
Overwatch League Network fandom team, which is Outlaws or
That's
Gladiators.
3 of the if Gladiators were to get Super, we first of all Super still hasn't announced whether he's staying with Shock or not. Super interesting. Maybe he's still looking it up. If he goes to Gladiators, they would now have Moth, Super, and Space, 3 of the 6 players who won the Overwatch World Cup. I would love that. But
They're not gonna sound raucous though.
the Super meme of wherever he goes is hilarious. I've seen Super to Boston. That one really makes me die.
That oh, oh.
First of
Okay,
all, yeah,
so one more rumor that I've heard that to me sounds huge is Cian Minsu, formerly of the Vancouver Titans, to the Spark. And like that sounds pretty crazy because this whole past season we were like, why didn't Cian Minsu decide to play again? And he might have been one of those people that's like, yo, I don't need to be on a team. I'm getting paid. I can play Overwatch at home. And then now, new season, time to get paid.
I had a theory. I think I've already talked about this.
What's that?
He got offered by Washington Justice, but he's like, I'll play for that team. And then they picked up Stitch instead. That's honestly because I know that he offered a team, but he declined. I really do think it was Washington Justice, and he didn't get another offer that off season. Not off season, but that mid season.
Yeah, because that was just such a weird thing for them to happen to that team. And we've literally been speculating since the former Vancouver Titans runaway squad, since that broke apart. We've been speculating where the rest of the pieces would go, and Spark seemed like, oh dude, could you imagine Cian Minsu with Architect? That's nasty, dude. Like straight up, like especially if some miracle happens and we end up in a Genji Tracer meta, because Cian Minsu has a nasty Tracer, and we know Architect has a pretty crazy Genji, or even if it's a Pharah oh man, so many. That's insane to be for real.
I've been seeing people say Cian Minsu wasn't that.
Say he's not that good.
Yeah, I've been seeing this. I'm like, you guys are, he was one of the best Darias. His Reaper was insanely good as well. He had other hit scan heroes. He beat out Stitch constantly, and then you saw Stitch destroy on Washington Justice during the playoffs.
Okay, let me tell you something.
He can't be that bad.
Cian Minsu could be on an Overwatch League team, just like Decay playing DPS or tank. Like, no problem. Like, his Zarya is literally better than Decay's was. And did you see what he did when in the grand finals when they went from the bottom of the leaderboards and almost made a run to the final four just because Decay's Zarya is so good? Cian Minsu's better. He could get picked up as a tank player or a DPS. Oh man, okay. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of fandom. I really wish he was going to the Outlaws instead of the Spark because that'd just be sick. But
well, just hope the rumor's not true then. I mean, you can do that.
Dude, every single player we talk about that's at all good, I'm just like, I wish they were on the Outlaws because we have so many empty spots right now. Like, there's so many empty spots that any player we talk about, if they're really good, I want them on my team.
I speculated what the Gladiator were going to get, and we ended up getting a better. So,
So you're telling me you think Bumper's going to the Outlaws?
Why do you want Bumper to the Outlaws? You keep saying this. Do you want Bumper to the Outlaws?
Dude,
do you really want Bumper to the Outlaws?
Yes. I'm trying to will that into existence, like some of that.
Do you think he's still looking for a team?
Do you think he's not?
He hasn't played Contenders in a while. I think he might just be streaming, bro.
Yeah, but look, I think that's...
I wouldn't mind that either.
So
I wouldn't mind Bumper to the Outlaws.
When the Titans blew up, they had to have gotten paid because that's the way that it would have... Like you know what I'm saying? They had contracts. So those dudes...
Well, a lot of them breached their contract.
They
didn't practice. That's why they were able to release.
we don't know full details.
That was
clear's
the
not
biggest
told.
rumor that came out.
Yeah.
That's
But they could also just be like, yo, I'm not like gonna go look for a team in the middle of the year. I'm just gonna chill, stream, cash my check, and because they're the Titans going in after that successful season from the year before. Even if they only got paid through up until like the first couple months, that was probably like 30-40% of their. Well, okay, maybe I'm overestimating how long into the season they went out. Either way, we'll have to do a whole special episode and like make an entire drama of the like looking back on the runaway breakup. Maybe that'll be a fun off-season project. Either way, I'm starting to ramble.
with all these bangers coming out. I don't know how our off-season projects may be
Because it's gonna
going.
drizzle. Because supposedly the rumor is, while we're still talking about rumors, that the league's not coming back till April. Dude, that's a
Right. Yeah.
we're not gonna be having this many signings for 4, 5, 6 months. It's just not. We'll keep
like
it
34.
entertaining.
Yeah.
We'll have some time
We'll
to do
find
some.
something.
We'll do some looking back on
We
segments.
can extend power rankers.
Oh, let's just do power rankings next week, and then every week we change them.
Oh God, please don't.
That's
We're not
actually
going to do
not a
power
bad
rankings this
idea.
early. No, we're not doing power
We have a
rankings this
running
early.
power rankings, and we just list it, read it 1 to 20 at the end of every episode. Okay, we'll talk. Anyways, let's go ahead and wrap this show up, dude. If you want to leave a review for the show, you can head on over to your favorite podcatcher and leave us a review. We are always looking for ways to improve, and if you leave a review, one of the two of us will be reading it on the air. So, Anura, let people know about the recall.
Yeah, the recall is you can find additional every Sunday we release the episodes released within the last. More information, follow Overwatch Recall at Twitter at OW Recall. To support our podcast network, if you'd like to show some additional support to our networks of Overwatch shows, consider pledging via Patreon. Tiers just start at $1 a month. More information can be found at patreon.com/OWL network. You too can join the likes of our master and above patrons, Daniel, Owl, Kasha, Agent Life, and 044, and helping our network grow. And Booger, how can they contact the show?
You can send your emails to contact@OWLN Show. Our website is OWLrecall.com. You can contact us on Twitter at OWLN Show. All past episodes of the podcast are available at youtube.com/Overwatch League Network. And we like to hang out in our Discord at discord.me/OWLN Show. We are on Twitch at twitch.tv/OWLN Show, and we have reached affiliates, so you can support the show by subscribing to the channel, and you get to earn the network emoticon. And we do stream regularly. We got this show, which is Overwatch League Network, airing Mondays at 6 p.m., and then we got Heroes Never Die, the variety Overwatch show with Totem and Ed, airing Wednesdays at 5 p.m. And if you want to contact either of us directly, you can hit me up on Twitter at boogerbrains with 2 Z's, BOOGERBRAINZZ. And Anura, you want to tell people how they can contact you? And then I have a final statement.
Yeah, 1 second. I don't remember my ad. Okay, so you can find me at Neurohappiness. It's been the same. ANURA. I actually spelled it wrong in our notes, which is funny because I don't know. I haven't found it. I mean, Gladiator. Look at the Gladiator signings. I can't change it. But yeah, you can contact me there. You can listen. You can even DM me if you want to just talk about Overwatch League stuff. I love talking about it. I love theory crafting and figuring out like what people think about certain players. So yeah, just like come follow, contact me. I don't care. I just love talking about Overwatch. So yeah.
And before we close out the show, we do want to say a special thanks to Totemly Drunk for editing all of our shows and, for being the godfather of the Overwatch League network. And while we're doing shout outs, how about we shout out some of our Discord regulars, McPaper and Phony, for always hanging out with us and talking Overwatch League network or Overwatch League in the Discord. You come hang out in the Discord with us, and you might be getting a shout out at the end of the show, too. So, we're going to be done with this episode for the night. We hope you all have a great week, and y'all get buckets of SR in all your games.